Hey yo, how's it going everybody? SixftHax here, bringing y'all today the draft analysis of my squad for Season 5 of the APA. For those of you who may remember, last year we joined in APA Season 3, but we did not draft our own team. We actually took over somebody's team and we were able to win Season 3. So that was pretty awesome. We got invited back to Season 5 here. Didn't do Season 4 because of time constraint. And I think it was also the Little Cup season, so I think I did draft for that, but then had stuff come up, so I couldn't participate in Season 4, but we were invited back for Season 5 here, as you can see. So, quick couple things before I get into the actual analysis. First off, I know some of you guys may be concerned, well, Leo, do you have the time to do this? You're not stressed like you were? Because for those of you who may have forgot, a couple months ago, like a month or two ago, when I joined UBL, I had a lot of things going on, way more busy and stressful than I thought I was going to be, and ultimately affected how I did in the league, and I had to eventually drop just because if I didn't care to battle in the league, I didn't want to be a part of it, and I didn't want to give you guys half-ass content. But as y'all have been able to see this year so far, the channel has been way more active. I feel like I've been in better spirits when it comes to videos, and you guys can kind of tell that. So we are definitely here for the long haul of the APA. Also, if you may have missed it, we are also a part of the upcoming GBA season, so I've already uploaded my draft analysis for that if you guys want to go check it out. But yeah, we are going to be doing those two leagues simultaneously. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with UCL right now. I was told it would start in January. I think some things came up. I don't really know the details, so yeah, I don't know what's going to go on with that, but hopefully everything will be fine, and we can also maybe do UCL if that comes around. I don't really know, but hey, it is what it is. Regardless, if you do enjoy the draft that we have here, hit that thumbs up button down below. Comment down below letting me know what you think about the interesting thing that will be going on this season of the APA, which I will mention in a second here, and what you think about our first draft. Yes, our first draft, because it turns out that I think it was Dan, aka aDrive, who came up with the idea of drafting 3 separate teams throughout the season. So, for example, this draft that I'm about to go over, I only have this draft for weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. So then for weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8, we are all going to redraft, I think, between obviously weeks 3 and week 4, and then that's going to be our second draft. So then once week 8 ends, heading into week 9, then 10, 11, and 12 at the end of the season before playoffs, we are actually going to draft a third time. So yeah, we have 3 separate drafts, 4 weeks each, and that kind of makes things very interesting. It's a little bit exciting. It's also kind of hectic. And then when it comes to playoffs itself, I'm like 99% sure you can choose any combination of mons from your 3 drafts, so long as they are within their requirements. So for example, you need to have 4 free picks, like 1 tier 1, at least 1 tier 1, at least 1 tier 2, at least 2 tier 3s, 1 tier 4, 1 tier 5, and a mega, obviously. And then you have your 4 different slots to fill out with points that you have. So yeah, very interesting, exciting. So let's take a look here at our first mon. So as you can see, I decided to get Tapu Koko. Turns out that because I was returning, I got the little perk of getting to choose when I wanted to go first for one of the 3 drafts. And I figured, hey, why pass it up here? I don't mind going last if we get into the other drafts, obviously. Because the way the other drafts work is that goes off of your score. So the more you win, the lower you're going to get the draft for the next couple drafts. So it's not that big of an issue, I think. Plus, I really did not want to pass up the chance to finally get Tapu Koko. If you guys have been following me through Sun and Moon, you will know I have never, ever had the chance to use Tapu Koko. Literally never once. Actually, the one time I had a chance to use it, there was a Magearna sitting right in front of Tapu Koko that I was like, yeah, I am not passing up Magearna, because obviously I would probably never get to use that in a regular draft. So I decided to get Tapu Koko here as my first overall pick. Super excited for this mon. I know you guys may know exactly what Tapu Koko does. I've seen what it can do. I've faced it. I've dealt with it. I haven't been destroyed by it, luckily, but hopefully I will be able to destroy my opponents with it. We know that it does get Dazzling Gleam, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, a U-turn, it gets Taunt, Defog, Dual Screens, it even gets Calm Mind. There's so much that Tapu Koko can do. Work Up, I've seen my boy Harris put in work with Work Up. Tapu Koko in a draft before, so that was really cool to see. So maybe we can bring work up Tapu Koko, which would be pretty awesome. Also, a cool thing, well, not a really cool thing, I actually think it's kind of lame, but it is what it is. It was voted on and majority rules. So it's any Zmon, which again I don't really like. I guess it's kind of cool. It's very hectic. It's more hectic than cool. I guess that's what I kind of like. Like I like the hecticness of it, but I don't like it in general. So yeah, it's any Zmon, so there's no telling when we are going to bring Z Tapu Koko. We can bring it anytime that we want, and if not, then we can always run some different type of items on it. So Tapu Koko definitely can do a lot. It can be supportive, it can be offensive, you can run its specs if your opponent doesn't have good ground types, it can be scarfed too. Like there's so many ridiculous things that Tapu Koko can do. While it doesn't seem like the bulkiest thing around, the fact that it still gets roost in general, and because it's so fast with base 130 speed, it's very easy to invest into its bulk. And then base 115 attack and base 95 special attack may not be the best thing around, but because of its ability here, Electric Surge, this means that Tapu Koko's Thunderbolts, Volt Switches, discharges, even thunders, Z electric moves in terrain are absolutely going to destroy something. So yeah, very excited to get Tapu Koko round 1 here. So coming back to round 2, I was actually really surprised that my round 2 pick lasted until round 2 back to where I was, because I was the final pick for round 2 because it was snake draft format. So I'm first for all the odd rounds, I think, and then I'm last for all the even rounds, right? Yeah, I think that's how it worked. Yeah, so for round 2, I decided to go ahead and just pick up my Mega. Honestly, I had no idea what Mega I wanted, but I was like, if Mega Gallade for some reason sticks around to the end of round 2, I am 100% getting Mega Gallade, because this, in my honest opinion, is probably the best Mega in a draft league format. Plus now I have it paired up with Tapu Koko, which in itself is probably the best regular mon in draft league format. Between these two mons, I can honestly just bring them every single week and my opponent can do absolutely nothing about it, just because they are that good. Like Gallade on paper may not seem all that interesting, but as you can see here, its move pool is absolutely absurd. I've seen Wish Mega Gallade, I've seen Dual Screen, Bulk Up, SD, I've ran Vacuum Wave before on Mega Gallade. There's a lot of things that Brick Flare here, aka Mega Gallade, can do. And as for Tapu Koko's nickname, I don't really know what I'm gonna nickname Koko yet. That's probably the one Pokemon that I want to give like a good, actual good nickname to, so I'm gonna sit down and think about it. But we got Ric Flair here, Mr. Mega Gallade, nice base 165 physical attack. This is almost as much attack as Kieran Black, which is base 170 attack. So that's not bad at all. Like 165 still is going to be hitting extremely hard, and because it is actually respectively bulky, 95 defense, base 115 spadef, this will just about always have a chance to either bulk up or SD. The only downside of Mega Gallade is that it kind of wants to run more than 4 moves because of the amount of coverage it can just learn. So in a sense, it does kind of suck, but not necessarily. As long as you can build correctly around Mega Gallade for your matchup, then I think you should be perfectly fine. But yeah, nice base 110 speed here, and 68 base HP really isn't the best, but it's okay. And its ability is really not that great either, like Inner Focus. No, it's Inner Focus? No, it's Steadfast, I'm pretty sure. Well, it's one of, like, all of these are really not that good, I guess. I guess as regular Gallade, I can switch into a dark move and get the Justified boost, so hey, that could work out. But regardless, really happy to try out Mega Gallade once again. And then for my round 3 pick, I was always going to take this mon round 3. I was very positive that it wasn't going to go round 2 this time around. So I decided to go ahead and get Greninja, another just really fast versatile mon that hits really hard. And again, with unlimited Z moves, my opponents will never know whether or not I'm running Z Greninja, and Z Greninja is just even better than regular Torrent non-Z Greninja, obviously. While this is not as good as Protean or Battle Bond, clearly Torrent Greninja still has respectable offenses, 95 attack, base 103 special attack, nice solid speed with base 122. But the main thing I really like about Greninja is that it is a spiker not only is it a spiker, it's an offensive spiker because it forces many switch outs, so you get plenty of opportunities to just get regular spikes or toxic spikes. It can gain momentum with U-turn. I've ran physical, I've ran mixed Greninja, I've ran scarf Greninja. There's just so much that Greninja can honestly do. This also gives me a second form of priority with Water Shuriken, which is actually very reliable. I've won games off of Water Shuriken, so really happy to have been able to pick up Greninja here in round 3. I know I used Protein and Battle Bond in the Arcanine 9 League, so I don't expect Greninja to put in as much work as it did in that league because it was Proteon and Battle Bond, as where right now it's only Torrent. So yeah, I can't use Protein or Battle Bond, but regardless, really happy to have got Greninja here, aka Eddie. Next off, for round number 4, I realized that with my first 3 picks, I have like little to no bulk. Yeah, Mega Gallade has respectable bulk, and so does Tapu Koko, but realistically, I don't want to need to run them defensively, so I figured that this time around for my next wheel, I should probably just go ahead and start getting some nice bulk added on to this offense, because between my first 3 picks, there are mons that just about every single match I can honestly bring. If not all 3, at least 2 of the 3 are going to be brought, just because offensively wise, they help each other out, and they are very difficult to prep for because of the versatility that they do have, or that they can have. So I figured that at this point I wanted something that I could consistently pivot in with, and that could also just support my team. So I decided to go with Tomas, aka Tangrowth. Now honestly, I am not a big fan of tier 2 Tangrowth. I feel that's a little bit too high, but I mean, it is what it is. Tier 2 is really not my favorite tier regardless. I feel like there's always the least amount of mons in that tier, along with tier 5 that I really like. But I decided to use some of my free points here to get Tangrowth out of tier 2, because thanks to Regenerator, anytime I switch out, Tangrowth is consistently gaining back recovery, making it very annoying for my opponents to potentially deal with. And with my team having so much momentum already with my first 2 picks between Greninja and Tapu Koko, then I can consistently pivot in and out with Tangrowth, recovering back my HP and just being a giant nuisance. Obviously, Assault Vest Tangrowth is absurdly bulky. We did have this in Season 3, and it was definitely a monster and a problem for some of my opponents to deal with. The fact that it can just be so disgustingly fat and defensive and just pivoting around and recovering its health too is more than enough, because at this point, again, I have enough offense. I don't need another offensive mon. I need to get some backbone, man. I need to get some fat for my squad here. So we got Tangrowth, and then for the next mon, for my for my second wheel pick, I decided to go with Bronzong. I think the main reason I went with Bronzong is because this gave me a Levitator, which is really nice, and this also gives me a solid rocker here, which can come in very handy for certain matchups. Let me get rid of these real quickly here. So yeah, really excited to have been able to get Bronzong. I've used Bronzong before a couple times. I had it in my GBA D-League season winning team, and it was very awesome in that team as well, just because it's such a reliable stealth rocker. It's one of those mons again that you can honestly bring any match just about and not really get too hindered by it. I guess it doesn't necessarily have the best like offensive prowess, as you can see here. Its offensive stats are really not that good, but its defense is really nice with the same defense and same special defense, and then obviously Gyro Ball does do decent damage with it having such a low base speed. But this is where any Zmon is kind of cool, because this also can kind of make Bronzong a little bit of an offensive threat. So maybe Trick Room is something that will bring, like offensive Z Room Trick Room would be really cool. Offensive Z Room offensive Z Trick Room Bronzong would be pretty cool. Maybe even something like Calm Mind is what we could bring. It gets dual screens, it gets rocks, trick, dual screens. It gets decent coverage too with like Grass Knot, so that's not entirely too bad. Really happy to have Bronzong again. This thing is definitely going to be a monster, I believe. So moving on to our next wheel pick, I still kind of wanted to get more bulk, because the main thing I like about Draft is that there's such good Pokemon in lower tiers that can just be like insanely bulky. So I really wanted to get something like Snorlax or Miltank. Unfortunately, both of those got picked. So I wouldn't call this a panic pick. I would call this kind of a safe pick ultimately. And I decided to go with my tier 5 pick for my next wheel here, which is pick number 6. And that is going to be Slurp, the Lickilicky, which Lickilicky is actually really awesome. This has been a mon I've been wanting to try and use for a while now. Try and draft actually, but I either managed to get Snorlax or Miltank, or I'm not able to fit it on my squad, or it eventually gets drafted. So this time around, like I said, I might have gotten a little bit early, but because Snorlax and Miltank were gone, I figured that I couldn't pass up on Lickilicky, because the way I wanted to structure my team, Lickilicky was a very important piece of the puzzle, so if it was gone, that would have been really bad. But the great thing about Lickilicky here is that it has such a diverse move pool, and that's the really cool thing about normal types in general, is that their move pool is absurdly good, and its offensive stats aren't actually that bad. Base 85 attack and base 80 special attack is kind of decent if you ask me, just because that allows Lickilicky to still kind of hit decently hard. Obviously it's not going to be sweeping through teams potentially, but it is going to be still packing somewhat of a punch. Its defenses are very nice, both 95, nice base 110 HP. Plus the great thing about Lickilicky is that it gets access to Wish. The only thing I think that would make Licky better is if it had its if I had a better form of recovery, like Recover or Slack Off. That would be amazing, honestly. I think that would even push it to tier 4, just because of how bulky Lickilicky is. It gets Swords Dance, which is really cool. It gets Curse as well, so we can maybe run some potential setup variants. And the great thing about Licky as well is that with it having Oblivious, there is no way that Taunters are going to be able to stop Lickilicky from being able to Wish, Heal Bell, or set up, and that's an amazing benefit to Lickilicky and I think to my team. So now we have some great offense, we have some really good defensive backbone with Tangrowth, Bronzong, and Lickilicky here, plus Lickilicky can pass off wishes to Bronzong and to Tangrowth, making them even more annoying to deal with, which is just amazing. So for my 7th pick, I decided to get a Mon that I originally wasn't going to get. The only reason I even got this Mon was because literally the pick before I was up, I got sniped of Mamoswine, and I really wanted Mamoswine, man. Mamoswine, I think, on this team, even though, yes, it is another offensive Mon, paired up with Greninja, Gallade, and Tapu Koko, that is very difficult to deal with. That's very hard for my opponents to prep for between all that immense offense, because the first 3 picks are very speedy, and then Mamoswine being a little slower is also really good to kind of mess with speed tiers and stuff. So I really wanted to get Mamoswine. Unfortunately, it got picked, so I couldn't get Mamoswine. So I decided to go ahead and pick up good old team player Mr. Swampert here. Now, the main reason I wanted Swampert is because it's a ground type, and it gave me a water type as well as giving me a stealth rocker, because I don't want Bronzong just to be my only stealth rocker. And actually the cool thing is that between Bronzong and Swampert, they cover each other very well, just about. So that's also something that was really nice there. Plus, Swampert and Bronzong are 2 very solid rockers. I think just about every single time they are able to get up rocks in a battle, just because of how bulky they are. And that's also amazing because rocks are very important in this type of format, I believe, and just in battling in general. So yeah, good old Swampert. We know exactly what Swampert does, Mr. Team Player here. If you guys were not around back in like 5th gen, then you don't know where Team Player originated from, okay? Team Player is the OG nickname of Swampert here, just because it's a team player, man. Swampert does not go down. Swampert can put the team on his back and definitely can put in a lot of work here. So its move pool is pretty good. Offensively wise, it may not be run, but defensively it's definitely gonna come. Nice fat pivot as well, reliable rocker, and of course it gets Scald. Scald is the most broken move in the game, and I think at this point we pretty much know it. Like, Scald's actually just dumb. So very excited to get Swampert, dude. Like, this is the first time I've used Swampert, and the first time I've used Lickilicky along with Tapu Koko, so that's already 3 new Mons I've never got to use before, so it makes it even better, man. I'm really liking how this draft is coming. So at this point I realized that I need to get a better speed tiering on my squads, because my first 3 Mons are super fast, and then my last 4 Mons are not that fast, obviously. So the next Mon I decided to get was another new Mon I've never used before, and that is going to be Chandelure, aka Raven here. So Chandelure is a Mon I've honestly never really liked in draft format. Like, I feel it's better on paper than it is in actual matchups, but this added a couple things to my squad here. It gave me a really good Memento Mon. And the great thing about Memento is that this allows Tapu Koko and Gallade to just come in and potentially set up, which is really cool because it only has base 80 speed. Even a Trick Room set is viable, so this paired up with a Bronzong made a lot of sense in my opinion. It gets access to some very good coverage moves along with its dual stab like Dark Pulse, Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, and then of course Fire Blast and Overheat are absolute nukes coming off of this base 145 special attack stat. Its defenses are actually not even that bad, like 90 defense and 90 split def. There is some hits that Chandelure can actually tank because of its decent defenses. Base 60 HP obviously is not the best, but it's decent nonetheless, and then its abilities with Flash Fire and Infiltrator as well as Flame Body, all three of these abilities are very handy and could come in clutch in certain matches. So again, this is the first time I've ever got to use Chandelure, so I'm hoping I can use it properly. So moving on to our next wheel, to our next pick here, I decided to go ahead and pick up a second ground type just because with me having Tapu Koko, I really feel like I need to have a sturdy ground type. And while yes, Swampert is very bulky because it is part water, that means my opponents can very easily just run Hidden Power Grass and absolutely blow it back, and then their electric types could be kind of problematic to me. So I figured I needed a second ground type, and because I couldn't get Mamoswine and the way I was trying to work out my points, I could actually get another tier 2, which is very odd because at this point this would be my third tier 2, which typically I only get one tier 2 because again I don't really like tier 2, but hey, that's how it worked out, so I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. So I decided to go with a very interesting Pokemon, and that is Radhe, aka Landorus Incarnate. No, this is not Sheer Force. This is not Sheer Force by any means. Sheer Force Landorus I is typically banned, and there was no chance that Sheer Force Landorus would ever be a tier 2. So yeah, this is tier 2 Sand Force Landorus, which its ability only really functions in Sandstorm, but hey, maybe we could bring that sometime, so you never know. But the cool thing about Landorus Incarnate is that it is kind of an inferior Landorus Therian, honestly, if you really think about it. Like, Intimidate's such a good ability, and then Landorus in general is just really bulky. Plus I think it has better physical offense, but regular Landorus I here actually has a little bit better of a special attack stat, and it does have access to Calm Mind still, which is really good. Its coverage is still the same as Landorus, but it can take advantage of its special coverage a little bit better because of its higher special attack stat, and mix sets are even better on Landorus I think than Landorus Therian. And with any Zmon, this can function just like regular Landorus Therian, where I can Swords Dance and then I can either hit you with a Z Fly, a Groundium Z, or a Rockium Z, and probably just get a KO. So it's pretty crazy how good Landorus I think really does seem. So it's a Mon I've never faced before. I haven't even faced, I think I've faced Sheer Force before, but not Sand Force. So I'm not too sure exactly what it can ultimately do, but I have high hopes for it, and I'm hoping that I can make it function properly. It gets Defog as well, which is really nice for removal. It gets U-Turn for momentum, knockoff, psychic, rock polish, swords dance, calm mind, super power, focus blast. There is so much, so much this thing can do. Even gravity, like gravity earthquake, would be really cool for some matchups as well. So yeah, excited to use this, man. I really am. Another new Mon that I haven't got to use in Draft League format yet. So moving on to our final two picks here. So at this point, I was able to find out the opponents that I was battling for my first 4 weeks, because we got our first 4-week matchups before we even finished the draft here with our last 2 picks. So because this was my last wheel, I decided to look at matchups and kind of see what exactly I could bring that would have better matchups than if I didn't obviously know my matchups, which is going to be my next tier 4 Mon, aka Scumtank. So the wait, what's this tier 4? I want to say this is actually tier 5. I don't remember. I don't know if this was tier 4 or tier 5, but regardless, I got Scumtank. Scumtank is honestly one of my favorite like tier 4, tier 5 Mons, because I feel like it's really slept on. It can honestly do a lot in certain matchups, and its ability with Aftermath is so good because you're able to just straight up punish physically offensive Mons, which could be a little bit of a nuisance to certain teams. It gets access to Defog. It gave me a second Dark type to help me against my Psychic type matchups, because Greninja I don't think is exactly the best mon to deal with psychic types, because obviously they can Calm Mind out of range of Dark Pulse. But with Scumtank I can kind of force them out potentially from prep, and then even pursuit trapping them is always nice. But Scumtank does have a really nice move pool here. Gave me a second defogger, another Memento Mon as well, to now allow me to set up with Landorus or even Chandelure as well, which is really good in my opinion. Priority and Sucker Punch, and it's also just a decent pivot mon in general. Like, it's deceptively bulky, base 103 HP with 67 defense and 61 HP. May not seem all that well, but it can definitely tank hits and put in some work, as well as hitting decently hard with 93 physical attack stat. And obviously it can run mix with its access to Dark Pulse, Sludge Bomb, Fire Blast, Flamethrower, and all those goody moves. Plus, again, any Z-Mon, man, I could even bring Z Scumtank to certain matchups. That would actually be really cool. So moving on to the final team member that I drafted here. Again, no dragon, and I decided to go with another new mon, which is Robobombi. So the main reason I wanted Robobombi actually is because of its speed tier. Like, base 124 speed is amazing. Yeah, I already have a lot of speed with Greninja, Coco, and Mega Gallade, but this extra speed tier can help me in certain matchups, I felt like. Plus, its access to sticky webs is amazing for things like Chandelure and Landorus, which otherwise could get bopped by mons that are clearly and obviously faster than them. And then it gets access to Quiver Dance, has Defog, and even though this does give me a second fairy type mon, I really don't think I am weak to poison types in general. Plus, this also helped me again with dealing against psychic types. I think it also gets access to dual screens, which is really cool. Like, there's a lot that Robobombi can honestly do offensively and defensively because of its move pool, as you guys can see here. So excited to use Robobombi. Shouts out to my boy Kelly. He recommended me to use Robobombi before. I've never got around to it. I figured, hey, this actually looks like it has a decent matchup, so yeah, we got it this time around. But as I mentioned, I'm probably definitely gonna get a dragon in my second or third draft, because I want to get a dragon regardless, potentially for playoffs if we are able to make it to the playoffs. So yeah guys, that is our squad. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the triple drafts for this APA season, and what do you think about our first draft here? So with that being said, I will see y'all with week 1 next Sunday. Not this upcoming Sunday, but I think the Sunday after that, if I'm not mistaken. That's when week 1s do go up, which I believe is the 24th. Yes, so we have week 1 of APA on the 24th, and I think we also are going to have week 1 of the GBA on the 24th. So Draft League weekend is coming back. Hopefully you guys are excited, and with that being said, I will see you all later. So later, everybody.
Cause my brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion, but when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears, or hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, and hoping. For real.